Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a journey. And actually, it's not a journey through endless lines of code or dry technical manuals. Nope, it's a journey of the mind. We're going to explore a really profound transformation that every successful creator goes through. It's that massive shift from the sheer absolute panic of a blank screen to the calm, structured discipline of a true problem solver. So picture this. Imagine someone asks you to build a small application. Now, you know the tools, right? You know what variables are, you totally understand loops, maybe you've even memorized functions and lists, and yet, the moment you sit down at your keyboard, your mind just goes completely silent. It's this incredibly familiar, totally paralyzing feeling. But here's the secret. It's not because you don't know the syntax of Python. It's simply because you don't know where to begin.
We have all been there, staring at that blinking cursor on a blank page and asking the ultimate question. Where do we even start? It's a very real, very human fear of complexity. Because when a problem first lands on your lap, it usually looks like this massive, messy paragraph filled with random details, emotions, and hidden expectations. And what do? Well, we want to start typing immediately, right? Because typing feels like we're doing something. It feels active. But that is exactly where the trap lies. Because typing without thinking, that just means you're creating bugs at record speed. Okay, let's dive into the alternative. The mindset of a true builder tells us that the solution isn't about typing faster. It's about thinking clearer. The old pattern? Well, that's just panicking, staring at the crushing weight of the whole problem, and rushing to the keyboard. But the new rule, the builder's rule, is entirely different. It's about observing, breaking it down, and writing out the human sentence before a single line of code is ever drafted. Because, speed is really just a side effect of clarity.
Section 1. Observation before action. This brings us to the very first major phase of our journey. If we want to see clearly, we literally have to strip away all the noisy, distracting decoration of a problem to find the first principle. That's a simple truth or a working part, sitting right underneath all the confusion. Think about it from a problem solver's perspective. A problem is simply a gap between a current state and a desired state. The tension you're feeling, that's just the gap. Our job isn't to immediately try and build a bridge out of code. No, our job is to honestly observe that gap and find the simple truth underneath. So, how do we actually do that? It boils down to 3 crucial steps. First, name the problem. Just call it what it is. Second, observe the facts. What is actually present right now before we add any of our own interpretations or assumptions? And third, divide the pieces. We have to move from this messy human need to actionable information. We absolutely, positively must not rush to code. We have to see clearly before we think, and we have to think clearly before we ever start to type. Section 2. The chunking knife. To divide all that overwhelming complexity, we need a conceptual tool that our sources call the chunking knife. It is literally the ultimate cure for the crushing weight of a massive problem. There's this beautifully poetic truth from the text. A large problem becomes kind when it is divided honestly. Just think about that for a second. A problem feels heavy because way too many responsibilities are hiding under one single name. But the moment we divide it, we anchor a technical concept, decomposition, to a massive emotional release. The problem literally becomes kinder to our minds. When you start looking at problems this way, you realize that separating the problem into its distinct roles makes it visible. So what actually makes up a problem? Well, there's the story, the raw data, the decided answer, the hidden expectations, and of course, the missing pieces. By mentally putting these into separate boxes, it's no longer this hidden monster of worry lurking in the shadows. It's just pieces of a puzzle sitting right there on the desk in front of you. And this leads us to a pretty profound question. When you remove a part, does the problem still exist? Breaking a problem down isn't just about creating some neat, tidy structure. It's about actively finding out what is truly essential and what is just noise. If you cross a piece out and the core problem is still staring you in the face, well, then you haven't found the root yet. Section 3, the problem canvas. Okay, so once we've chunked the problem, we move from writing human sentences to drafting a real, actionable blueprint. We call this the problem canvas. This is all about taking that mental fog and turning it into a usable, structured form before a single line of syntax is written. Because here's the thing, experienced programmers don't actually hold a massive tangled web of logic in their working memory. No way. They use a canvas to map out the journey. They make the unseen visible. This canvas relies on 4 simple boxes to hold the problem safely. First is given. That's the starting shore, the facts you already have. Then there's wanted. the shore ahead, the exact output you desire. The bridge is the transformation connecting those two shores. And finally, check, which is the evidence that your result actually makes sense. You answer these 4 things, and I promise you, the confusion completely loses its grip. Let's think about how this blueprint actually becomes the machine itself. It's all about bridging the gap between human thought and machine architecture. And the fundamental transformation engine of all programming is surprisingly simple. It's just input, rule, and output. That's it. Raw materials enter, a specific rule changes them, and a shiny new product emerges. For a lot of people, this is the biggest aha moment. A function isn't magic. It's just a transformation machine. Code is simply the vehicle we use to move information from the given state to the wanted state. Think of it like a small room with a door. Values enter, work happens inside, and an answer leaves. It's that simple.
Section 4. The calm builder.
So we have finally arrived at this state where that initial blank screen anxiety is completely replaced by structured step-by-step confidence. There's a quote from the source that perfectly captures this emotional journey. A mountain becomes a path becomes a stone becomes one step, and one step is never too proud to begin. I love that. Progress isn't made in one heroic, super anxious leap. It is made one small, totally testable chunk at a time. There's a stark contrast between 2 very different approaches here. The beginner's trap is believing that immediate, frantic typing equals success. But the builder's way, that's about relying on structure, logic, and visible thinking. Sure, code can fail because you missed a comma or messed up the syntax, but honestly, it usually fails because the idea itself was muddy from the start. The calm problem solver always debugs the thought before debugging the code. To maintain this kind of calm, you can rely on a 6-move loop that turns complex uncertainty into a fearless, repeatable cycle. First, state the problem plainly. Second, strip away the decoration. Third, split it into chunks. Fourth, sequence those chunks. Fifth, safeguard the risky steps with edge case tests. And finally, summarize the lesson. This right here is exactly how you coordinate complexity without losing your mind. And this brings us to the core thesis of our entire explainer. The goal isn't just to write Python. The goal is to think clearly. If you follow this path, you transform from someone who simply memorizes syntax into someone who actually knows how to think, how to break down the world, and how to build elegant solutions from first principles. Once that paralyzing fear of the blank screen is gone, the entire landscape changes. The tools are waiting. The process is clear. The massive mountain has been reduced to a single, simple step. So as you face your next blank screen with total confidence, I have to ask, what will you build now?